Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Please subscribe my channel. The studio lights burned hot, a false sun in the pre-dawn darkness. On the sleek, modern sofa, Ilara maintained a calm demeanor, a practiced smile playing on her lips as her co-host, Ben, navigated the final weather segment. Beneath the desk, her knuckles were white. The digital feed on her monitor was a torrent of crimson, a live stream of viewer comments scrolling at a nauseating pace. Disgusting bias. When did this become the immigrant channel? You're destroying our country. The segment had been straightforward, a reporter's piece on the challenges facing a new community support center in a struggling neighborhood. It featured a local baker, a woman who had fled a war-torn country a decade ago and was now training other newcomers in a skilled trade. The piece focused on employment, on integration, on hope. But the public, or at least the vocal part of it that lived online, had seen only one thing: an outsider receiving help. 60 seconds, the producer's voice crackled in her earpiece. The final commercial break. Ben shot her a look, a mixture of sympathy and shared fatigue. They'd been through this before, but this morning's deluge felt particularly venomous. Ilara thought of the baker, Amina. She'd been nervous before the interview, her hands fluttering like birds, until she'd begun talking about her sourdough starter, her voice then steadying with pride. The piece had shown her teaching a young man, barely 20, how to shape a loaf. It was a story of quiet dignity. Yet the response had been a symphony of outrage, orchestrated by a few influential voices on social media who had framed the report as an invasion and the show as its cheerleader. Welcome back to Daybreak UK. We've had a significant response to our earlier report on the Bread and Belonging initiative. Ilara drew a quiet breath. The producer was now frantically gesturing in her ear, two conflicting commands: address it and don't engage. She made a choice. We have, Ben, she said, her tone shifting from light entertainment to something more measured, more grave. She looked directly into camera one. And while we always value viewer feedback, the level of vitriol and misinformation directed at this story and at the individuals featured in it is something we feel we must acknowledge. Ben's eyes widened a fraction, but he nodded for her to continue. The comment feed exploded anew. We did not air that piece to take a side in the political debate. We aired it to tell a human story. A story about a woman who is a business owner, an employer, and a teacher. A story about people seeking a skill, a community, and a purpose. To reduce their complex lives to a political slogan is not just an oversimplification, it is a profound disservice to the truth. She could feel the heat of 1,000 angry keystrokes aimed at her, but she pressed on. Our role, as we see it, is to hold a mirror up to society and all its facets. Sometimes the reflection is uncomfortable. Sometimes it shows us parts of our community we'd rather not see. But turning away from the mirror doesn't change what's there. It only means we stop looking. The segment ended. The show signed off. The second the red light on the camera died, the silence in the studio was absolute. Her phone began to vibrate incessantly on the desk. Network executives. Ben let out a low whistle. Well, you've certainly lit the fuse. Someone had to, Ilara applied, her hands finally unclenching. They can't just scream into the void and have us pretend it's a reasoned argument. Later, as she gathered her things, a junior production assistant approached her, looking nervous. Ms. Vance? I just wanted to say thank you. My grandparents came here with nothing. That story, it was their story, and you treated it with respect. Ilara felt a lump form in her throat. The furious comments were noise. This was the signal. Thank you, she said softly. The outrage would be tomorrow's headline. But the quiet gratitude of one young woman was the story that would never make the news, and the only review that truly mattered. She had held up the mirror, and for at least one person, the reflection had been one of recognition, and not rage.